Chasing the Racing, powered by Colchester Kawasaki. Part of the Global Moto Group, we supply new Aprilia, Moto Guzzi, Vespa, Royal Enfield, Kawasaki, Sim, Mutt and Benelli motorcycles.
3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasing the Racing, episode 155. And we're slightly, if you're watching this on YouTube, we're in a slightly different setup. So we're over at the Northwest 200, and we're in a Death or Glory tattoo parlour.
That's the one.
In Coleraine, and we're delighted to be joined by Josh Brookes. How's it going?
Very good, thank you. Great, glad to be back on another episode. And first of all, I want to start by saying sorry, Dom. On my first episode, I was quite hard and harsh on you, and there's a reason for that. Because I'd listened to a lot of your episodes, and you kind of like skew the conversation off in different directions, which is great. But
no, it's not.
But I lose track of things and concentration. I'm easily distracted, and I needed to keep the timeline accurate. I had to be very hard on you. So I'm sorry for that.
I'll tell you what, every listener will be going, thank God someone said it. There you are, it's finally come out. And Chris is over the moon, so I'm just going to sit here, be quiet and enjoy the moment, to be fair.
Well, do you know, obviously the last time we did a podcast was right at the beginning of the 2020 season. It was the year that we missed the first half of the year because of the COVID pandemic, just got racing, and we both went on to have a pretty good season. So hopefully this will be a good... what's the word? Like good
omen.
Yeah, good omen to get you back on the podcast.
Yeah.
But obviously we've got a bit to catch up on since then. But to start with, we're over at the Northwest. We've had practice and the first few races as well on Thursday. You haven't raced yet, have you?
No, I've just done 2 practice sessions.
And you've started one race, I think, didn't you?
Yeah. And pretty much forgot to take my jet ski settings into the bike and ran out of options at that point. I tell you what, I bet you're over the moon, Josh, that you missed that one. Or you tell me.
No, I am. I was watching the races yesterday, and I felt anxiety watching it. It wasn't something I wanted to be part of. I'm all for the road racing in street circumstances. Even in the wet is fine, but in my opinion, when the temperature gets to a certain level, the tyres stop working properly, and then even a very experienced or calculated rider can be caught out by the tyres. So that's where I kind of draw the line. I'm thinking, well, it's too cold now to be running a race, not because it's too wet or because it's too dark or whatever the other opinions were that might have been a reason for stopping it, but just the temperature alone had me on edge.
I tell you what, a lot of the sort of higher profile riders pulled out from the start of the race, which is quite unique in terms of racing in general, like that sort of scenario. But I think it's totally understandable, and especially with the TT just around the corner, and for the lads that are competing in British Championship and stuff. Like Glenn said just before the race, he was on pole position but pulled out, and he basically just happy for the race to go ahead, but for him and his circumstances, he just thinks there's too many, kind of like what you're saying, there's more variables than usual, and it's kind of for him the sort of cost benefit wasn't worth it. So.
Yeah, I think he called it pretty clearly, is that there are more variables. Like we're all risk takers, and there's always a danger associated with motorcycle racing, no matter which discipline you take part in. But it gets to a point where the variables are stacking up against your odds, and you kind of go, well, now it's kind of not a situation or a decision I'm comfortable to make. Mm-hmm. It kind of gets on that sort of grey area. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why a few may have decided out.
Because the worst thing about the whole situation is the racing turned crap, and that's the best way to with the weather concerned. But practice was looking great. But actually, you wouldn't have got out at all on Thursday. Is that? No, I'll tell a lie. Superbike.
Yeah, so we had completely dry conditions because our practice was earlier in the day, and the conditions were perfect.
I tell you what, even before we go on to Thursday's practice, we were out on Tuesday, and we actually got some dry runs there, and you decided to top pole. And now, don't take this the wrong way, I totally forgot you were there. I didn't even see you roll out your pit garage. I didn't see you roll up on the grid. Not a single Ducati top in sight. And then I looked at the time machine and went, where the did that lap time come from? And it was just like, oh yeah, Josh is here. That's outstanding.
So, I mean, everyone's had a bit of a break from the Northwest with missing the last 2 years for the pandemic.
Break gimmick. It sounded like we had a choice there.
But you've like an unforced break for the last. Well, it's almost 3 years since anyone's been here, but is it 8 years since you've?
Yeah, it's 8 years since I was last here.
So to go out and top the session straight away, you must have been happy, like chuffed a bit with that.
Yeah, I was. I mean,
years.
yeah, I'm obviously I wasn't surprised to go fast because that's my job. I try and do that regularly, but I was surprised to go fastest, and so my very first year was 2013, but that year I didn't actually race properly because the race I started got cancelled because of wet weather, and then the rest of the event was cancelled because of weather. So I didn't actually race in 2013.
What team were you on at that point?
It was with Taiko Suzuki.
Right.
And then the following year I changed to Yamaha, and the 600, I think it broke down in both races. And then the Superbike, I got second. I was leading the race and set the lap record at that time, and then made a human error at Mathers Cross Chicane. Just went on the grass momentarily, and it was dodgy conditions as well. It was like we were running slicks. We had one race that was wet. I can't remember which order it went in, but we had one race that was wet for the Superbike, and I didn't go too well. And we had one race that was dry, but it was sort of like still a few patches of water. And I can't remember exactly what happened. I think I just got in too deep with too much speed and kind of didn't want to turn where it looked a bit dodgy with the damp track, and ended up going to the grass to avoid. But then nearly fell off on the grass anyway because in trying to be safe, ended up putting myself in risk. But anyway, got back on the track. But Mickey D got past me and he ended up winning, and I got second.
Bloody hell.
So then I had 8 years away, and then come back because Michael separated from the team.
I tell you what, I must ask. You're the perfect person to ask this. Have you seen? What's the biggest track changes you've seen? Is the track better now or worse? Like you tell, yeah. 8 years.
It feels.
Is a hell of a gap.
Yeah,
I can't believe
I mean, it's too long for my memory to be that sharp and remember exactly. But it seems. I don't know if it's. It seems bumpier going into Mathers Cross. On the left there's a lot of trees, and I think the tree roots grow underneath the road and upset the ground. And I don't know, there could be a variety of reasons, but it seems more bumpy on the breaks into Mathers Cross. It's definitely nicer tarmac past church and under the railway line and stuff. But then that next rise is as bumpy as it ever was. It's like as if they laid fresh tarmac over the old bumps.
I think it's more severe. Like, it's more of a jump than anything, because normally people are getting away with it, and there's been some big crashes, even in the smaller capacity element, especially in the Super Twins, like Ryan Farquhar and
in years gone by, and
like Malachi, God love him. And you think that bump, it was just so inconsistent. You could hit it, sometimes it would be smooth, and then sometimes it would be like a big tank slapper. But now everyone's going over like I'm going slower than you, so I'm a bit more cautious than you. But do you think that's a better thing, being a more severe bump? Not for lap times,
maybe because it gives people more conscious consideration of it. Whereas when sometimes you go through, like maybe you're saying there's a line you can take where you miss most of the bumps, and you got, I don't know, say you got lucky that lap and got a nice line, and then the next lap you might be a bit complacent because you remember being able to get through there so smoothly, and then when you do hit the bump, that's when it catches you out. So maybe in a strange way, it is better to be more pronounced, the bumps. But I felt like that section of the track was worse than I remember.
Yeah.
But then following that, the nice sweep up into Black Hill is nicer, and it seems smooth. So it's a bit of give and take in there.
Do you know, going back to obviously Michael Dunlop was down to do the Northwest and the TT for PBM this year, and then that didn't happen. Was it a case, am I right in saying that you contacted the team and said, can I go to the North, can I fill that space, or did the team ask you?
It was a bit of both. First of all,
there was a couple of pints involved, and everyone was chatting, shoulders were dropped, everyone was loose. How about this?
Not quite. It was my mother-in-law's birthday party, and we were there, and so I was with some friends, and then a message come through, or someone said on social media, "Oh, Michael's pulled out of the position." I thought, "Oh, that's
you found out. You found out through social media."
Yeah, just come through on social media, or maybe, I don't know. Anyway, it might have been a message come through. Either way, it come through on the phone, and so then in a kind of not joking but joking way, I messaged Birdie and says, does that mean I've got the spot for the Northwest and the TT? And I can't remember how long later it was he replied, but he says, yeah, we're discussing that at the moment. So it was something that him and the team personnel were considering. And so sponsors, I guess.
You asked for the TT as well?
Yeah, it was. Because Michael was in for both. Mm-hmm. So I was interested to do both before, even during the contract period for this season. I said, what about the roads? And it was sort of like not even an option. It was just like the budget and the commitments and the sponsors and everything it got to the point where it was purely BSB. And then Michael's deal was completely another deal, so it was independent of what I was doing. So it was only when the separation of Michael and the team had arrived that then I was like, does that mean there's an opportunity for me? And then they were thinking, well, is this an opportunity for Josh to fill the role? But so as it turns out, I guess maybe because they're already very committed, or because the Northwest is a more achievable target, they went, well, we'll do the Northwest. We'll continue to see out those commitments. But the TT's too big of a task without more sponsorship involvement. So it was sort of like it had to be that and then no more.
So if this podcast goes out Monday, if we got a plea out and someone gave Paul Bird a lot of money, could we get you there?
I think it's far too late now. That ship sailed. But it is purely a money thing. It's just so expensive to take all the personnel out and to run the Ducati there, and all the expenses. I mean, if you started to, you know yourself clearly how expensive it is to run the bike, and the Ducati just on its own isn't a cheap bike to buy and run. So the expenses just blow out so quickly, and the sponsors that the team have for BSB don't then want to go and bump up their input by a huge amount more for just 2 weeks, because maybe their customer base isn't so focused on TT, or maybe they don't see the value, or maybe they won't see the returns. I don't know the technical reasons, but basically it's money. It all comes down to money. Good
thing you said technical. I must ask, in your opinion, how would you feel about going to the TT on a Ducati?
Yeah, fine.
Really?
Yeah.
Because the nature of it, that's always been a bit of a question mark for me, because it's like the chassis, well, it's an engine that they bolt the front on and the rear onto it. And like the fastest lap speed, I think I've said this a few times, it's a 128 or 127. How fast do you think you could go on that Ducati?
I don't know. Well, I've done a 131, so it's going to be quicker than that for sure. On a Norton, so it's going to be quicker than that. I don't know how fast I could go. I don't know. It's like trying to guess the lottery numbers, isn't it? I don't know.
Easy.
Obviously, this podcast is going to go out after the racing, which is going to be on tomorrow. So far, we've only got the practice and qualifying sort of times and the speed traps and stuff to go off. But looking at the speed traps, I noticed the Peter Hickman topped it with 201. I think you were 198.
Something like that. Yeah.
Have you had a good slipstream, and do you think 198 is accurate, or do you think we're going to see a big jump?
Well, we had a kind of cross headwind the other day, which I think was heavily compromising the top speed. So I think if the wind direction changed, you could add 10 mile an hour just like that.
I was quite surprised to see Hickman top. Obviously, he's a big lad, and I would expect your bike to be more powerful as well. Right. So come race day, do you feel like the Ducati's going to, for example, if you're all in a bunch, do you think the Ducati's going to have the legs on the other bikes, or do you think it's going to be quite even?
Going by BSB standards, the back straight at Snetterton, for example, coming onto the back straight is about skill, grip levels, acceleration, setup of the bike. But when you sort of get to the tail end of the straight, all those parameters are sort of gone out the window. It's just about pure speed, and at that point is when the bike appears, from what I've experienced, to keep accelerating. When you start to see some of the other bikes kind of tailing off, like they've reached their top speed, Ivac seems to continue to accelerate, not hugely, but definitely to a better speed at that end of the straight. So I've got the impression that the bike would continue to accelerate better.
That's why I was kind of surprised to see, like, before the week, if you'd said predict the timesheets, I would have expected you on the Ducati to be a good few mile an hour faster than Hickman by the end of that straight.
Yeah,
we'll see on race day, like, how, because everyone will get like a similar toe.
But I didn't get a toe at all. I don't know. I can't speak for Hickman. I wish he was here and he could tell you. But
he got a toe off me one lap. He nearly took the paint off me bike. He went that quick past us. I'm telling you, Jesus wept. He was like, wham!
Are you completely on the stop through station, like, or
No. I roll.
Everyone has to roll
a lot in station. I think it's possible to go through flat. I'm not going to try and do that.
I've given it a go, but I'm not on the Ducati to be fair. So there you go.
I mean, as
Are you
time.
in 5th or 6th?
6th. I don't know if that's the right gear to be in.
No,
that's the one I picked.
No, because I've tried it a couple of times. Like, especially now, the stock is not a super bike. You know what I mean? We've got to try that, but it's just a couple of times. I think I went quicker in 5th. It did rev out, but then the pickup out. When you come off the fat part of the tyre and it just starts to slow off again, and you can just click it just before Black Hill.
Yeah,
again.
I did notice that in 6th, when you come off the edge of the tyre and go back into the middle, it kind of dies. But again, the other day we had a cross headwind, so that I think that was having a big effect. But I think as I build more confidence and speed, I think 6th gear would be achievable. And if I didn't roll so much, because I'm kind of having a proper good roll for confidence. So if I gained some more confidence and just kept the throttle a bit more open and not had such a roll, I think I could carry enough momentum.
I think because that's I've never been to the Northwest to watch the racing, so I'm mega looking forward to seeing the action tomorrow. And I really wanted to watch as you tip in to station, like from behind. I've seen Hardy Breeds put a few videos. Did one of Glenn the other day, and it just looks like surreal.
But I think that's a non-spectator area.
They've just made it this year.
That's.
But that's what I was going to say. I was hoping to get there because I thought that. Just
maybe with connections you could get there, like with a media bib or something. But
no, but that's we could go down that side. But I'll tell you what. Before I forget this point, it's a case of where was Glenn Irwin's bike? Because at the moment, unofficially, he's broken his own lap record by 2 seconds. That is insane. But where's he on that speed trap time?
199, similar.
Similar speed.
Similar. So it's not up because
there's no one's like really stretched out further. But I think again the wind was really affecting the speeds.
Obviously I was looking at Croy, my team boss, and he was so the highest was 201 and Croy was, I think it was 179. Obviously he's a big fella. Like
that's a big, because
his bikes are strong as well, so it's like the engines are good, but it's I think mass has more of a thing on acceleration, but when you get to top speed, it's more aerodynamics, and obviously with them being so big, it just like sticks out.
I've got to highlight a serious situation. Tuesday night tends to be anchor night for most of the riders, and Phil Crowe was not in the anchor on Tuesday.
So he's taking it serious.
He's taking it serious. He's keeping the weight off with the Guinness, the job lot. He's here to race. 100%.
Do you know, just before...
Were you in the anchor? I can't remember. No, I can't remember now.
To wrap things up on the Northwest, just quickly, do you know, riding in the wet here, I don't even ride on the road. I passed my test, but I've done very little road riding. But I would imagine I would be terrified if it was wet and white paint. Are you like, as you hit the white paint, does it affect the bike much? Or
it's the same white paint as they use at the Isle of Man, so they actually mix like a fiberglass substance in the white paint here. So there is an element of grip. Like normal road stuff is slippy because, like you say, in the car you can feel it. It's just it's essentially cheap, but it's the same as like. No, it is grippy. It is grippy, but it's the drain covers here, son.
Watching the Supersport race, Seeley and Todd were like full banking it in on the white lines, and like me watching it, I was like,
I tell you what, they were not bank. Like I was watching that race, and they were not banking it in. That showed how slippery it was. You could tell Todd's supermoto experience. How he was upright on the frame, and same with Seeley. But Seeley's style, he doesn't hang off.
No, he doesn't. He's definitely got a very
he was awesome. He was awesome. Seeley the other day. I felt like I proper take my hat off to him. Like he rode amazing, and fair play to him, especially not doing British Championship and sort of. I think he's been doing a bit of racing over here, but not having the chance to battle at BSB week in week out and to turn up and extend. Got his 25th and 26th, I think. Wins around here. Super like it's
impressive stuff. You can't.
Did you see Davy Todd's 600? He's on that new 600 that you can only get in from Japan.
Yeah.
what does Clive Padgett do? He's either a gangster or like a warlock, one or the other. He knows what he's doing. He builds a Honda better than Honda. Did you see it?
No, the slip, like I thought at once it was a slipstream, but then it was even when he was out the slipstream, it was still going
Just
well,
gone,
wasn't it?
see you later, son. And I just think that showed the class of what Seeley is. Now the top. Don't get me wrong, like Seeley's here for the Northwest, and the Todd's using his head a bit. He's thinking about the TT and getting to that event. But my God, it just showed the power. But
Yeah, massively.
don't get me wrong, he had to be with it. But when you think about the stock race I ran, is it Black Hill when you come over and it's just them like mega photos?
Yes.
Like, mind you, I try and simulate what you do and I look nothing like you. I'm literally hanging off the bike. I look like I'm out for a fart off the end of a sofa compared to you, proper elegant. But like, there's Seeley coming down the hill and it looked on the locks.
Yeah, quite a few laps he spun off the top of Black Hill, which I thought was maybe taking a bit too much risk, but he got the rewards.
Yes.
But not only the reward, he nearly lapped everyone. They had the ceremony, he had the big, what do you call it, laurels on, he was standing there, and then second place rolled in. It was some gap, that was some performance.
Just a turn of conversation, but I've just noticed your Top JB Motorco. Is that a side business you've set up?
No, that's just my wife making some merch to sell, because people always ask for stuff, so we
nice.
make some stuff. And
What does it say? Motorcycle
I don't know.
company. Very nice.
I don't know, I just put it
Classy.
on.
Did you design that? Yeah, very good. I'm impressed.
And by the way, before anyone asks, Amy's refused to come on the show this time. There'll be a lot of people screaming, "Go on, get it back on, get it back on!" But hey, first of all, congratulations! You weren't married the last time we saw you,
No, we got married.
so you said yes. Was there any
No,
doubts?
we were engaged
Was it-
then. No, we were engaged then, but we COVID was delaying the wedding.
I tell you what, I feel like Cilla Black here. We've got the blind between you. She could be doing anything on the other side of that banner.
yeah, congratulations on that.
But yeah, we did get married in England, but none of the Aussies could come over because it was still restrictions. So,
Go on, and obviously plug your merch. Do you sell that on your website or?
yeah, just on joshbrooks.com. So Amy takes care of all that stuff. I don't. I'm kind of going red. I'm thinking, I don't know if I said the right thing. Yeah, she does all that. I try and stick to riding bikes.
And as well as get married, I remember last time you were saying you were in the process of moving house or something. We were talking before on air about before we came on air about you doing a bit of DIY at home. How's all that going?
Yeah, so we bought a property, like a doer-upper. There's a house. There is a house on it, but it's like really derelict and needs completely revamp. And so that's something that we'll do over time. But it's just good to have something that you call your own, you know. So we've done that, and then it's got a couple of acres. So that was like the focus, to get a little bit of land, and yeah, so I've started building like an entry, because the gate where you come off the road is really close to the road, so you can literally only just get a car, and it's quite a busy. It's rural area, but the road itself is really busy.
Yeah.
So if you've got a trailer or anything bigger than a regular car, you're kind of on the road still. So I want to make like a proper big entry where the gate's set inside the property further. So I've been cutting some trees down and using the. Actually, we had a tree come down in the storms and stuff we had earlier in the year, and used the trees that come down to make some posts and stuff like that. So I've been proper getting involved with the chainsaw and buying some wood to make fences and stuff like that.
Yeah, mega. And obviously, racing-wise, since our last podcast, kind of like mixed fortunes, really, from the 2020 season. Couldn't have got much better. Quite like a pretty dominant display and taking the championship. And then the season after, it was like the sort of complete opposite, really, by your standards.
Yeah.
A lot of people sort of speculating over the last few years about kind of what's causing it. Is it the bike? Is it you? That sort of thing. Do you want to like sort of give your side of it?
Tell us the truth.
I've got old. I've lost my talent. I've got a secret injury. I can't remember all the different ones that come up. But
And thanks for being on the show. That was great.
Was that the injury a conspiracy theory, or was there a bit of truth in that?
No. I mean, I did fall off my motocross bike, but I've fallen off a bunch of times before and after. You know what I mean? So those activities come you know, a part of what we do.
Yes. Yeah.
So So when someone says, "Oh, have you ever fallen off a bike?" Yes, I have.
Of course you have, yeah.
Was that the reason for a slump in your performance? No, it wasn't. But I'm not one to lie. You know what I mean? So all of a sudden, there was this idea, oh, he's fallen off his bike and he's got injured and that's why he's not riding well. And it's like, okay, well then how come 6 races later I'm still not riding well? You know what I mean? Like, if in fact that's I actually had this conversation with Bertie. He said he goes, oh, you'll be right, you fell off your bike the other week, because he'd heard this rumour that I'd fallen off my bike. And I was like, okay, well then we've got real troubles when we get to Alton Park, I think was the next round, because if you think it's then it's not going to be fixed, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So anyway, yeah, it wasn't all the rumours and conspiracies that people believed it to be.
So from your point of view, do you just feel like you had like an updated bike and for some reason you just couldn't get the feel that you had the year before?
Yeah, well, I'm convinced to a very high level now what could have improved that year. But at the time of racing round by round, I didn't know at that moment. You know what I mean? I was trying to understand it as much as anyone else. You know, there was a point because I crashed in pre-season testing at Silverstone.
I seen that crash.
And the bike got heavily damaged. So I was like, oh, something must be bent. And they're like, oh no, but we put a new frame on. And I'm like, well, how do we know that the new frame, even if it came brand new out of a box, maybe there was a fault with the new frame, you know what I mean, that nobody's discovered, and maybe that's the reason, you know. And you know, you try and unearth all these ideas of what could be the reason. So we literally tried and changed all the external components. You know, we changed the forks, we changed the triple clamps, we changed the main frame, we changed the swing arm, and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is gonna do it. We'll find it. And then you go out and ride it and go, nope, that wasn't it, because you know I'm still lacking the performance.
Jesus.
So yeah, we just I went through the year and we ended up really compromising the bike. Like, we ended up making major changes to the setup well away from what was my, let's say, base settings, to try and that's when you started to see the progress. Like, I started to improve results towards the end of the year, but they were all Band-Aid fixes. We weren't fixing the actual problem. We were just changing the bike to to make a better results. And we did, make a fairly big improvement, but not enough to challenge for race wins. And so by the end of the year, we'd made decisions of what needed to be done to fix the bike. We put those in place. And this year I've come out and I've equaled all the lap times at the tracks I've been to as I had done in the past.
I was supposed to say, which lap did you break the Bishop Court lap record? Like, first time out, you turned up and it was just off your end. It was class.
Went under lap record at Bishop's Court. Went under lap record somewhere else too. Where did we test?
Kirkeston.
No, we didn't go to Kirkeston. But anyway, I've gone to all the tracks that we've been to so far, and I've gone either quicker than I've been before or as quick as I've been before. But unfortunately, this year everyone's moved on.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So now we've got to go quicker again. But all I've done to date is recover what we'd lost last year.
Yes.
So that feels like a bit of a
because what can you right now? Do you feel like you're riding as good as you ever have done, but the competition's found more?
Yeah, I feel like I'm riding as good as I have. I don't feel like I'm reaching the limit that I have before, because there's areas in the bike that can improve. It's never perfect, but I don't feel like what the guys at the front are doing is out of reach. But I don't feel like at the moment I can extend myself to a level to match that. We need to, as a group, collaborate and make steps forward. So it's.
I was about to say, like, within Superbike rules, what can you? You haven't actually got a big window to play with, have you lads? Is that a fair comment to say? Like, obviously a Ducati turns up and it's a bit like, what can you actually change? Like, engineering wise, you can't, or can you?
Well, there's plenty to change setup wise.
Yeah.
It's like.
But you can't lengthen swinging arms, or can you, or like adjust yokes?
You can do what you want. You can move the triple clamps out. You can change the angle of the forks. You can change the linkage in the swing arm. You can change the swing arm itself.
Bloody hell.
There's endless amounts of changes you can make to the bike, but the problem is that every one of those changes makes the theoretical number of combinations so huge.
Yes.
So every time you make a change, you think, oh, that's better in this area, but maybe if we combine that with what we tried 3 weeks ago with some other change, you know what I mean? It's so hard. To work out exactly where we are now, is that the best position to be in, and where we were last year, was that better than where we've come to now, and where do we need to move on? It's so technical.
Do you know from the end of 2020 to the start of 2021, is sort of like the same team, same manufacturer, same teammate. So as a sort of reference, and there was quite a step from obviously like winning the championship to the start of the pre-season. Obviously, you mentioned that crash. Did you find it difficult? Sort of. I personally would find it very difficult, like personally, and to like sort of cope with that, and to maintain. I don't know. I think I would struggle personally with that change. How was that sort of period for you? Can you kind of just like keep the racing professional and just kind of keep working away and remain calm? Because in that situation, I would, after the first couple of rounds, like start to get a bit desperate and like be like sort of
I know exactly what you're saying, and it is difficult. I think that's where experience comes in. It's kind of like self-belief as well. Like if you've got enough self-belief, you go, well, I don't really care what anyone says. I know my qualities, and I know that I haven't lost any of those qualities. So if the results aren't there, then I'll just wait until circumstances change that brings them back, because anything I do that extends myself beyond what I'm capable of doing is only going to bring a crash and injury. So you sort of have to be calculated enough to go, as upsetting as it is to suffer with these results, I have to be strong enough mentally to endure this period.
That's kind of what I was getting at, because I think a lot of people in that situation would lose their head and then just push beyond the limits and end up crashing and hurting themselves. But to sort of just keep that sort of professional approach, and exactly like you say, sort of just bring the bike home, even positions that you don't feel like you should be in, battling with people like that you don't really feel like you should be there, to just keep doing that and keep calm about it.
It's definitely hard. It's really difficult to do, and I think, again, like I said, it's experience that allows you to do that. But you also have no choice. It's kind of like it's do that because the alternative is worse.
Yes.
So you're kind of stuck in the rock and hard place sort of thing.
And can you separate your work from how you are personally?
No.
Or does it like
it consumes you between every race? You're like thinking about what you can do different, how you can do it different, who you can talk to, which person in the team is understanding what you're going through the most, and how can they affect the changes to the bike that you may need. And what's particularly hard is when you don't know what needs to be done. Like it's different if you're there and you're like, I know exactly what this bike needs, I've just got to convince them. That's one challenge on its own. But if you kind of go away from the weekend, you genuinely don't know what the thing is that's holding you back and where the drop is in performance, and you kind of asking the guys like, what are we doing different? What's different about the bike? And they're kind of like, oh, nothing. What do you mean? What's different? You know what I mean? Like, you're kind of left with nowhere to go. It feels very, I don't know, lonely. You know what I mean? You feel like there isn't anywhere to go, and that's hard. That's when it sort of. But I think then. You kind of just keep this optimistic approach. You go, right, we'll go to the next round. Last year, that was a better race for me. This next track's a track I really like. You just keep making excuses for why the next round's going to get better and better. And even if it doesn't change, you just kind of then get to the end of the weekend. You go, right, that's out the way. It wasn't what I was hoping for. It's not where we wanted to be. But, reset and go forward.
And to give Paul Berder's dues, lots of people, including a lot of like the commentators and a lot of the press, were speculating quite early on, and definitely like sort of halfway through the season, saying like the sort of insinuating that your time was limited at the team, and like with the current performances.
Yeah.
But to give him his fair due, sort of kept you on for the full season, and kept his faith in you to this day?
Yeah, I mean, Bertie drops little. I don't know if they're jokes or if it's just his personality, but like he does say some stuff. And we make jokes when you're just amongst the crew and you're having a laugh. You like one of the comments the other day was you got to have skin thick like a rhino to make it in this team because everyone rips into each other pretty heavily. So if you can't take a joke or a bit of a dig, you're going to get offended pretty quickly. So. I think sometimes I wonder if some of the things that Bertie says people take too seriously.
Yeah.
I think sometimes he's like he might go, "Oh, if you don't improve by the next round, you won't have a job," sort of thing. But I don't know if that's his warped sense of humour. I genuinely, I'm sure Paul will listen to this, and I genuinely don't know exactly his character and where his personality separates from his humour.
It's humour and motivation, very fine line, isn't it? You know what I mean? Building up together.
From every sort of interview I've seen him on, like on the TV, and also when he was on the podcast and stuff, he's always retained that attitude of Josh has won championships before, he's a class act, and he'll come good again. Like he's kept that belief in you, so that must like sort of mean quite a bit to you, like to hear that.
Yeah, and I don't tend to listen too much to what happens outside of. If I listen to every comment I saw on social media or every comment someone in the media in general made, you'd be forever.
You wouldn't be off your phone, would you?
Yeah, you wouldn't be off your phone to start with, and you'd be like forever paranoid about what's the next thing they're going to say. So I kind of leave the media side to do their thing, and I just carry on being me. So at no point did I really feel like Paul and I were on like uneasy ground. You know what I mean? I think he could recognise that there was a problem, and he was trying to be motivative. If it worked or it didn't, I don't know. But you know what I mean? Or he'd try and be stern. You know what I mean? Like a father figure. He would try and find the way to bring those results back and try different techniques of what motivates you. But I guess there was moments, and there still are, where you think, well, I can only perform badly for so long. It doesn't matter which team you ride for. You're not going to continue to gain.
It's the game, isn't it?
It is, and I don't take it personally. If Bertie said at the end of the year, look, you're going to have to find somewhere else to ride. We've got no place for you. I wouldn't go, oh God, I can't believe how he's said that to me. You know what I mean? That's the game we're in. I've always experienced these change of events and going from team to team year after year. You have to work for your work to gain your position, and it's always performance based. So I am sort of grateful that Bertie's given me the opportunity, and I do believe it's because of past history. It's not like that
direct reflection of last year.
Off of last year, yeah. The sample size is too small. You can't go you can't judge a guy's performance off of one race or 2 races or 2 weekends or 6 months. You kind of go, look, out of the 12 years he's been racing in BSB, he's been strong. So for him to take a dip in performance, there has to be another element.
I tell you, one of the worst sayings in this game is you're only as good as your last race, isn't it? And
but it's true.
No, it is true, isn't it? But it's good that Paul doesn't seeing that, further down the line rather than going, imagine how good the game would be if it was as good as your last race. Sacked, moved, sacked, moved, sacked, moved. Imagine that.
Was there any point in like during the whole year, like you said you'd like say got through the first round and thought, right, well, next round we were good there last year, we'll get there. And like after 2 rounds, then 3 rounds, and then 4 rounds, was there any moment where you started to think like somebody's I know we mentioned on the last podcast about there was like a little bit to do with was it like the tyres or something?
How you've been
at any point, because I would start to my mind would start wandering and like going off on tangents. At any point did you think
wondering if you're being sabotaged or something?
Or
I did I even think that? No, I didn't think I was being sabotaged. Sometimes I didn't think that people understood what I was talking about enough. Like you'd come in and you'd explain the problem, and everyone's sort of like sitting there listening to you and nodding and like yeah, and then you walk away and you go, do you think like in my own thoughts I'm thinking, did they really take on the severity of what I was trying to say, and do I wonder if they really comprehend to the same degree that I feel where the grip is and where it's lost and how it feels and the power and stopping and turning and, and all the things I'm trying to explain. I just sometimes wonder how much they either are listening to or actually grasping.
Yeah. And to be fair, sometimes, and all three of us will like sort of understand what it's sometimes difficult. Like if you've had a session, something's not quite right, it sort of puts you off your rhythm, and therefore you tried harder in other places, and the whole thing turns into a bit of a mess. And then to come back to your team and describe exactly the one problem which you're struggling with, it's quite difficult to articulate that exact issue. I've had it before where, like, say you've not got the best rear grip or whatever, but then the whole session turns. It's quite difficult to pinpoint like specific things. For you, was it like chatter and slide or something?
I think because the chatter had already started in the 2020 season, even though I won that year, there was already
chatter. The tyre change.
Yeah, chatter had already kind of had become a main focus on that, and then we kind of got to the end of the chatter thing. We figured out how to we didn't ever I don't think you ever completely cure it, but we got it to a point where it wasn't a focus. And I think you kind of create a priorities list, and you think, right, what's the thing that's going to make me go quicker? And often when I come back and tell the guys, I have to explain to them, when I say it feels better, I go to explain it feels better as in I can go quicker, or it feels better as in that's more comfortable. Because often you go down this path and you go, the bike feels better, it feels better, but if it's not going any quicker, then it's pointless making it feel better. I want to, you know what I mean? If the stopwatch,
like a true racer,
the stopwatch doesn't lie. So yeah. I kind of specify which setting change feels in which category, and I'll say that feels better, but I can't go any quicker. So let's put that issue to the side, and I kind of try and like I might have 5 issues that are concerning me, but I won't even mention the lower 4. I'll only focus on the one that I think's the main priority, or I might say the first 2. You know what I mean? I think that the biggest 2 issues are stability at the moment and being able to stop. So then they go through, and then if those things are cured, then I might bring up wheelie, and they'll go like, well, has wheelie just arrived now, or has it been an issue from the start? I says, well, it's been an issue from the start, but I didn't mention it earlier because I didn't want to give you a whole list of things that's wrong and overwhelm the mechanics with like all these, if they look and they see a whole page of problems, they're going to think, where do we start? And that gets them disheartened before they even get going. So I'll maybe like leave the wheelie issue to the side for a minute, see if we can work on what the more, say, where the bigger lap time improvements are going to come from. And then when those were dealt with, I'll go, and as a side project, if you've got a bit of time, wheelie's a bit of an issue too, So I kind of, and I kind of stuck to that even through difficult times. I kind of just keep sticking to the same, the same system, yeah.
Now, on the other side of the garage is the world superbike champion, Tom Sykes, and not the word good's not the best thing, obviously, I'm using the total wrong words here. It's a case of like Tom Sykes is obviously having the same problems as you, and the fact that he's just stepped back into British, in my opinion, means squid. The lad can pedal a bike, you can pedal a bike, everyone in that championship can pedal a motorcycle.
Yes.
And the fact that you are pretty much 1-2 in each other, does that give you, the word's not comfort, but it's the fact of like, if Tom Sykes was pissing off into the front, you'd be like, whoa, and Tom Sykes neither at the back. So, like, it's pretty much a parallel situation. Now, is it a case of, have you just been having a nudge with Tom gone? Do you know what's going on?
Tom's really good. Like, we'll speak to each other between sessions and talk about stuff. He seems really open to chat about what he's feeling with the bike and areas of concern and stuff like that, which is, it's good because we're talking about the same thing. Like, where I've got a problem, he's echoing exactly the same words, and then he'll be talking about turn 2 and turn 3, blah blah blah, and I'm going yeah, mine's exactly the same. I says and over at turn 7, and he'll just be like with just laughing, like nodding and laughing as in that's exactly the same as my bike. So so it's refreshing that we're both on the same page. It's exactly the same areas of focus and improvement that we need to make. So the downside of that is as soon as he or I make improvements, then we both move forward. But ideally, I would like it where it's Tom and I first and second, and we can work out who wins between us on the track. And if he beats me, then fair dues. He deserves to, because he rode better, or he beat me fair and square. So, but we've got to build to that point. Before we can...
It must be a bit of a culture shock for Tom, coming from World Championship for so long to back to the likes of Cadwell, Knockhill, Oulton, that sort of thing. But yeah, like you say, he's like, since being in BSB years and years ago, he's went away and won two World Superbike Championships, hasn't he? And even like last year, he was... I'm pretty sure he had pole positions on the BMW, like right at the top of his game for superbikes. So yeah, to come back and no traction and all that sort of stuff, a lot to learn from. Well, yeah, like you say, it must be comforting to know that. It would be a bit annoying if he just came back and started like put on pole position and was dominating. The fact that you're both sort of similar at the moment, you're getting the better of them, but similar.
Yeah, at Alton Park, at Silverstone we were neck and neck through most sessions, practices. Snetterton pre-season we were very similar in times. Alton Park I was just a bit better, but I was running quite a different setup, so we'd sort of like separated in direction at that point. So I think again once we make some progress, Tom will be... It's difficult to beat for me as anybody on the track.
Yeah,
but
he's a class rider. I think Donington's going to be the biggest thing, because he's the man around Donington and World Superbikes, and he qualifying. And
yeah, I'm sort of wondering about that. I'm wondering, but at the same time, like I had a difficult time at Donington last year, so I'm hoping what he can bring to the team is helpful for me too. You know what I mean? So what I was doing at Alton Park will help him in a way, and then if he's is very quick at Donington, whatever he's doing, I'll be able to benefit from that. So the idea is to get the bike and the team up. As individual and as selfish as the racing is, from the team's perspective, they don't care if Tom wins or I win. That's not what they're bothered about. Who it is, it's about lifting the level of the team, given the best presentation for the sponsors, and then we can fight it out between us.
I must ask, and I can already hear the answer, but how chatty are you with Bridewell? I'm just thinking as a manufacturer, you, Tom and Bridewell just sitting there smoking in the corner going, turn 7. Have got any problems at turn 7, Bridewell? Any problems? Or
I do.
Are you chatty with him?
I do, yeah. Me and Tom get on really well.
Yeah.
And we do chat about the bike, but...
It's interesting about the echo. You use the word echo with Tom, it's a bit like, is that... I'm not saying is it the Ducati's problem, but kind of.
Tom Bridewell seems to not have exactly the same.
Right.
When I talk to him, it's not like we're echoing the same comments. At certain tracks, there's certain elements that come up that are common, but it's not like it's not as obvious as it is when me and Tom Sykes talk. So he's sort of like got different areas. Like sometimes he'll be going, it's so difficult to get stopped into this particular corner, and I'll be like, no, mine's all right there. And then I'll be going, it's really kicking off the bumps, going over that rise, and he'll be like, nah, mine's smooth as. So obviously, but there's quite a lot of differences between because we're on Olin's and Akrapovic exhaust and stuff like that. There's when you start to get into the fine details, where we start to get, even the look of his bike is different, So,
and that's one of the best things about this sport. The thing is, you can never ever take away a man's style. Like how a rider rides a bike, their body language, their position, their arse, and that's the best thing about this. Any belling can help. I say I can drive an F1 car, but
like when we started out, Seeley's really central on the bike. Yeah, that's his style, and then another riders like climbing all over it. That's their style, So
I know we've kind of moved on from the Northwest, but I forgot to ask you. Going into superbike racing, you've got the superbike and the TT, so you'll have 2 races on Saturday, won't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Of them 2 races, what would your sort of success criteria be?
Success criteria.
Win.
Yeah, as in, like, are you going? Would you be satisfied with a podium, a top 6?
I'll be satisfied with wherever I get, because I have to be. I mean, if you try and achieve better than what you can get on the day, then that's dangerous. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm only going to ride to where I feel like I can. I mean, like I hadn't ridden here for 8 years, and on the open in practice I was fastest because that's how I felt I could get to. But in the next practice I was like back to 8th. You know what I mean? So I didn't improve with the.
In terms of lap time, how many seconds are you off, Paul?
Like 7.
Right. Okay. So realistically, do you think that Glenn, you'll be able to, like in a pack at the front, or do you think it's going to space out a bit, or?
I think it'll space out, but I think if I don't make improvements, like I think Glenn sort of set the benchmark and he's not going to be able to improve. He possibly could improve something, but I don't think a great margin. Like I think that's a very high standard he's already set, whereas I'm still a long way from where I think I can get to. But the problem is the next time I ride the bike's in a race. So there isn't any time to make changes and improve.
But the thing that people are going to forget here is Glenn's got one thing over Josh this year. Laps. He's out on the stocker as well. And now I know the ponies aren't there, but, in your opinion, you've just proved it, to be fair. You've totally proved it. In 8 years, you've turned up and just smashed out some laps. This professional level that you're riding at. But has Glenn got an advantage in that? Of course he does.
I think having the extra laps, particularly on the day, helps you understand where the grip is and how the track's improving and things like that. But I think it's even common in BSB, for example, like the opening session of a round, I'll be like fastest or top 3. And then as the weekend goes on, I'll kind of like slowly drop down the order because I'm able to take the bike to the level where it's at the window that it's in pretty quickly. And then I can kind of eke out a little bit more with perseverance, you know what I mean? And find little margins to gain and find a little bit more performance. But I'll normally go very quickly to where I think the bike is at. And then after that, we need to make improvements in the settings of the machine before I'll then make more steps in time. So we didn't really change the bike from practice 1 to practice 2 because I didn't have enough information after practice 1 to go, the bike needs dramatically changed. I mean, I kind of went immediately to where I felt comfortable and I thought, well, I can probably push on a bit more just with more laps. But then in the next session, I went to push on and I was already outside of the window. You know what I mean? There wasn't more to be had easily. So I was like, actually, we need to make some changes. So now's the kind of calculated period where everyone's kind of going through the laps and overlaying data and using experience to judge what changes need to be made to improve the package.
I'll tell you what, one thing, you use the word climatization absolutely brilliantly. But I'm very lucky. I'm very biased road race, so that's all I want to do and stuff. But when I went to Cookstown with the Countons, and then I went to Tamragee with the Burrows lads, and first time running the Metzlers. But even that, that adjustment to riding on the roads, for me, it was Jesus wept. And even coming here, you're going flat out between trees, and it took a few laps to get to that level. How many laps did it take you? 0?
No. I was packing it early on.
Good man. This is good to hear. This is good to hear. You are actually, human. That's the episode name right there.
Mervyn said, look, go out in the newcomers session and just roll around. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense because I'm not a newcomer. He goes, well, you haven't been here for 8 years. So in the interest of safety, ride out in the newcomers and just, have a look around again. That I said, all right.
Which is fair enough, yeah.
Which is, if that's what you want, I suppose that's fair enough idea. Okay, so I'll do that. And actually, I was going slow because it was a newcomer's lap, so the tyres didn't feel warm. Steve Plater was leading the group, and he was sort of setting a pace so that nobody could take any risk. But in doing that, I felt like I was at risk because I was following people I didn't know, and I was trying to stay out of the stones and stuff because the track's covered in debris. So I was trying to stay offline to stay away from the stones off the riders in front, and it just kind of put the wind up me. I didn't feel comfortable at all. There was moment, and then it started to rain, so I'm riding around corners and like I'm on the full lock, and the idle was up too high. So it was like trying to lurch forward, and I couldn't steer anymore because I was on lock, and I couldn't lean anymore because the track was a bit damp, and I kind of went up the cushions in the curb, and
Josh Brookes bins it on a newcomer.
Honestly, this is how close it was to doing that. It was at York, so you're going desperately slow, but I just thought to myself, what am I doing here? You know what I mean? I was just like completely out of my comfort zone, and then I kind of like had to kind of put that out in my head and just go, all right, that's that bit done. Next session, went out on my own and went my own speed and went around corners properly without anyone in the way. And within a lap, I was like, oh, this is what it's supposed to feel like. We actually had a dry track, and I was starting to link corners together. And within probably, what did I do? I think I did, I don't know, what did I do? Maybe 8 laps on the first day. I think within 3 laps, I felt comfortable to start not pushing, but start making progress.
Yes,
it took 3 laps to get my head around the track and start to brake later and like I said, link corners together.
Do you know
I could use a lap off you actually. I don't know why I've just thought of this now. After this interview, what are you doing there?
Do you know a comparison from like say Oulton Park through practice 1 to like rolling out here, nerves wise?
Yeah.
Are you a bit more nervous here with the extra danger, or do you?
Yeah, I feel like I always feel nervous. It's like as if you overthink things. Like you want to perform, you want to do well, you don't want to let anyone down, definitely don't want to crash, you don't want to get injured, you don't want to, there's all these things that sort of like roll through your mind, and every one of them adds a little bit more nerves. You know what I mean? So you sort of start to generate all this nervous energy. And then as soon as you ride out on your bike, it all goes away. You're like, it's just riding a motorbike. That's what I do. That's what I've always done. So why did I create all this nervous energy about something that I feel so comfortable doing? Mm-hmm. But it's not until you actually ride the bike that the nerves then go away. But in doing that, you've got to go flat out down a public road, and that in itself is nervous, but it's a different kind of nervous.
In my opinion, I think you would be, if I was in your shoes, I think you'd be more nervous at a short circuit meeting than a road race. From the outside looking in, because when you roll out on a road, like a short circuit, it's just like you can get set lap records, you can win, and you're thinking that expectation within yourself is like, I've got to do it. In road racing, you tell me, because it's the roads.
It's different nerves. There's definitely nerves there. Like some of the most I could say probably the most nervous I've been is leaving the garage, and it happens to be Brands Hatch because that's where the final is. So you're in a chance to win the British Championship, and all the people around, the sponsors are there, your friends are there, whoever's there, the mechanics, you can see they're nervously, faffing around the bike, checking every bolt 15 times over to make sure it's right. That's probably the most nervous I get. But it's a different nerve. It's an expectation nerves. It's the nerves of you want to perform, you have to perform, you need to perform. It's all about that kind of, I can't put any other word. It's like it's the expectation. It has to be. It's purely that.
Imagine being an Olympic 100-meter sprinter, but you basically get 1 or maybe 2 Olympics in your prime, and like you literally spend your whole life, every single morning, every single night, just running, practicing, training things, and basically your whole life comes down to like. And you know that if you slightly mess up the start, your chance of getting that gold medal's over. Yeah. Imagine that sort of.
That's. I mean, I obviously we've never been in that position, but I can imagine it's the same sensation of nerves. It's the expectation nerves.
And then when you watch it, and Usain Bolt comes out, and he's just like mega relaxed, kind of like showboating, and that you think he is cool.
Yeah. Well,
in that situation.
Yeah. That I've never actually thought of that, but you're right. That's impressive.
Imagine if you got one TT. Every 4 years, and there's one class, one race, and it's 10 seconds. Do you know what I mean? It's like
sounds like my sex life.
But the difference
once every 4 years.
The difference is with the roads is is the
End of the
nerves.
bed.
The nerves come from a different part of you.
Yeah.
You're nervous about what if someone falls in front of you, or what if the bike has a malfunction, or what if there's oil on the track, or what if the wind gust blows me into a position of the track that I've never been on before, and the bike reacts in a way I've never experienced, not planned. There's so many outside elements that go through your mind, and that's where the nerves, well, for me anyway, I can't speak for other people, but for me, I'm nervous for a completely different reason at the roads.
Yeah.
It's not about it. I mean, there must be a slight area of expectation about you want to do good, and you're a British champion. You're a British champion in superbike, so you're expected to do good in everything that you do on two wheels. So there is a slight element of expectation, but it's primarily about your safety, I guess, about what could happen, if it went wrong.
Sound. I've got a couple of Patreon questions. Obviously, I put a thing on, and one of our patrons, Aaron Han, messaged us before to say something about, did you used to live on a farm with someone called Timmy or something, and do updates on Twitter? What? I literally know nothing about it. But
Amy's laughing in the corner here. So
Yeah.
what's that all about?
When I was living in Northern Ireland with Gordon Crockard, the lane. It's a shared lane, so the lane that goes up to his house is on the right and Timmy's house is on the left. So Timmy would run a farmyard, and he had actually like prize-winning bulls. He would show them and win ribbons and stuff for how class these bulls were. So he took it very serious, but his farming qualities were somewhat to be desired. He would always do like this randomest stuff, and like all sorts of things with farm equipment, and crashing things and knocking things over and breaking his stuff, and he would always try and repair it himself. So there was this huge volume of material that I would, if I was in position to get a picture of it, I'd take a picture and I'd put it on Twitter. And I think there's a kids program called Timmy Time, or there was anyway. So I would hashtag Timmy Time, but it was actually the neighbour Timmy. And but I haven't lived there for a few years, so unfortunately there isn't. I haven't got the access to the material to update Timmy.
Also, Aaron, recently, do you know when we had Lee Johnson on the podcast, he asked us to send, unfortunately he lost a family member to cancer. Do you know the FC, is it? I know it's supposed to
F13 King.
So Lee Johnson's charity that he set up, he's just had that tattooed on his arm. It looks really cool, and that he sort of got that through the got the image through the podcast, so he thanked us for that. And he also said, did he sort you a sign out or something?
He did, yeah.
What was that?
Well, he got me two actually. So he got us one of Joey's. It's like the Alaman TT signs, the road signs that are on the side. So he got one like my other half. She lost her dad a couple of years ago to MS. Mm-hmm. And she went and spread his ashes up at Joey's corner. That was his favourite rider. So I got her one of those, and for the shits and giggles, I got myself one at Greba Castle where the peacock came out. So yeah, that was about the start of it. So thank you very much, Aaron.
We've got quite a few Patreon questions. I had a quick read through them before, and I had a good laugh. I think there'll be a few decent ones. You won't have heard the last podcast, but we're talking about with Steve Day. Have you listened yet?
No, I haven't listened to that one.
Anyway, we were asked about most embarrassing moment of your life, and he had a very good story about basically farting on air. And he went to mute the mic, and he accidentally turned on another mic, which was like here. So instead of turning off the thing, he had like a surround sound fart on it. It was like quite funny. And I told her my most embarrassing story of my life. He said, "What's yours? Most embarrassing moment of your life?" Either within racing or just in general.
Yeah, it probably sounds lame, but so at my high school formal, what do you call that? Prom, right. So I had one of them, and the girl that I took, her sister's boyfriend had like a done-up car, and he was like convinced he was going to take us to the, where you come with the car and you both get out at the start of this event, and he was all for doing that. And the car that he had, I wasn't really that bothered by. I was like, I'd rather, it's the guy's thing to organise the car. So with being distracted by racing and stuff like that, I just put it on the back burner all the time and never organised anything. So it was like the day before, and I was like, I still haven't organised this car. So I quite like that time I was really keen on a Corvette Stingray. It's just a particularly shaped car, and I thought, oh, that'd be great. And a friend of the family knew a guy that had one, and so he come to pick us up. But I didn't even think about it. It's just a 2-seater. So it's the driver's seat and the passenger seat. I'm like thinking, what am I going to do about the girl that I'm supposed to pick up? So I just like, when the blood starts to like, feels like it's draining from your body when you've just like stuffed something up. And so what ended up happening was my mum had to go and pick her up and take her to the event, but just around the corner from where you got dropped off. So then we pulled up and she sat on my lap. And we pulled up. I know it sounds smooth then, but honestly, I was so embarrassed because at the time I really liked the girl and it was a big deal, and I'd completely screwed it up. And I don't know why, but I keep reliving that moment. Like years and years later, I've relived that moment in my life, and I get that same sensation of like the blood running from your body every time I think about it.
That's glad.
What do you think of one?
I know, I was thinking of one the other day. Well, basically, it's not that good, but I was working on a site just outside of Chester. And it was like in a railway embankment right down, and like we have to have like portaloos on site, for like WC, and we clear felled this entire site. We're talking 1.5 miles of track, and either side were these houses, and I went, I've got nowhere to go here, and I really need the loo, and they've all buggered off. So anyway, I climbed down the embankment. I thought, oh man, there's no trees here, perfect, and the line was switched out. So anyway, I know, honestly. So anyway, I'm like, right, Mint, no one's here, just me. And I'm like, oh, no, yeah. Now, as a gentleman of the woods, I've developed this beautiful tactic of being able to prop myself up against something, but I felled all the trees. So I'm rummaging around, I'm walking up the track going, oh, no, I'm literally by myself here. And I find this old clear pipe, like, like the proper industrial ones, with the rims and stuff like that. I'm looking at this going, this is on the money. I deserve a bit of luxury in my life, Josh. Made for the job. So anyway, I stood this pipe up, but it was on about 4 foot tall. So I circled it into the ground so it stood upright, got up on a stump post, pants down, jumped in it, legs up, fully like that. I'm like, I'm living the dream here. This is perfect. So anyway, I'm going like that, and all I hear is this train coming down the line, and I'm going, that's not gonna, perfect. Not a problem. But it was like a Hogwarts train. Now, because we had a line stoppage, it had to stop further down. And so anyway, it's coming down, and like I could hear this thing deaccelerate, and I'm going, oh no. So anyway, I'm trying to get myself out this pipe because obviously my legs were in it, and the 6 foot, and it was balancing. And obviously, if I fall over here, I'm going straight in the shit. I'm like, so I'm trying to lift myself out this pipe dead slowly, and the train stops. Absolutely on the money, right? The teachers are panicking, all sorts. The kids are waving at us, and I'm sitting there with my pants around my ankles having a shite. All these kids staring at me like, I'm going to prison, I'm going to get locked up. I don't know. Like,
but that's almost bluffable. Like if you just sort of held your shirt in the right place and you sort of sat there, like with
staring like a paedophile straight from the train windows.
If you could poker face it, you could nearly pull that off and just go, I'm just sat here. What? How's that?
How would you explain the underpants around your ankles?
That's it.
Okay.
And I just thought that was a good moment in my life at that point. I thought it was like, honestly, I'm just sat there going, come on, get this train going. And it was there for ages. When you want the world to swallow you up, I was like, fuck. No, it wasn't me. I think
there's a difference between embarrassing because you've done something that's embarrassing, but it's in front of complete strangers, and then embarrassing of people that you know and you have to see again.
Yes, totally agree. So hopefully I'll never see anyone on that Chester train in my life. I'm telling you that for now.
I once had to read a poem out in front of the whole year group, and I got up on stage, memorised the poem, got like the first line out, and then I've literally got like 250 kids, all of my mates and everything, looking at us, got the first line out, and then my mind went completely blank, and I just went sat everywhere. And do you like a second off? In time or 3 seconds in time like when so many people are watching it, that goes even quicker, and it just like felt like I was there, and then I just walked off. It was horrendous. We've got another one, Ty Kinton. Why do you like the old school retro MX scene so much, and what got you into it? Also, you're known for the helmet designs. What's your favourite? I have seen pictures of you with the retro MX stuff. What have you got? What bike?
I've got quite a few.
Please tell me you're turning this 2 acres into a motocross track. You know, like JB's motor training camp. Go on, bollocks to it. Amy's smiling here. You've got
I'm
to
paranoid about things getting nicked.
Yeah.
So if you, I don't even start a bike up anywhere near where I live. I don't have a pickup and put it on the back or anything. It's always in a van. I always like back the van in and wheel the bike in.
I've had a motocross bike stolen from my house. So
I'm massively paranoid about people nicking stuff off us. So I try not to promote that I even own bikes. So some of the stuff I've got is in Australia and there's a few bikes over here, but it's predominantly sort of like I haven't bought anything for a long time because motocross bike market has gone through the roof. They're just stupid money. I was buying them when they were cheap, but they're not anymore. I've got mostly sort of like, I've got a few kind of 80s, like late 80s model motocross bikes, and then a couple of 90s models. So it's sort of like around that period. But that was a huge influential period of my life. Like I was riding motocross myself and racing motocross, and you'd buy your dad would buy you the magazine, and I didn't read anything, but I always just like studied the pictures, and you looked at all the pros, how they rode, what gear they had, and in the late 80s, early 90s, there was loads of flow colours like the fluoro pinks and yellows and blues and all these sorts of cool,
and the no fear stuff. And
there's heaps of like, it was like definitely a dynamic period of change with the bikes and the gear and everything was really, really cool. So you're always studying all the pictures, and I was lucky enough to race motorbikes. So I never always had the latest cutting edge gear, and I never had more than one set of gear, you know what I mean? And it was all often a hand-me-down because I had an older brother. So all of my stuff I rode with was secondhand. As he grew out of it, I would grow into it. So you sort of envied all the people in the magazines that had this latest gear and the custom painted helmets and that sort of thing. And so it was, like I said, it's hugely influential on a young kid. It was just an awesome period, and that's just stuck with me for life. I'll have that for life, that feeling. And
do you know, I think that's a massive thing right across. I know loads of people and when they get to a certain age, you think about the bikes you wish you
wanted
had
when you were a kid.
It's funny having this conversation because Lundy's in earshot and he's the classic example of what I'm thinking of. But yeah, you like look back and think, like when I was like 18 or 19, these bikes were like the coolest things ever.
Yeah, I was even younger. I was like, when I was like 9 and 10, 11 and 12, that sort of era, I was riding like an 80cc or a 60cc bike.
Yeah.
And I was looking at pictures of the factory riders on 250s and stuff like that, and just thinking, I wish I had the gear like that guy. And Dad would tell me things, they don't make that in your size. I was like, okay. But they probably did, but he just didn't want to buy it, But so as you get older, you desperately want to collect all these things that brought you, they bring you comfort now because they represent a feeling that you had when you were a kid. So I've collected all that stuff. And then when I get helmets painted, I'm like, well, I want to extend. I'm in a position that's unique where I'm sponsored by Arai and I get the helmets, and they got to be painted, and you're going to get them painted a certain way. I'm like, well, I want everyone to be different, and I want to have this opportunity to branch out and do the things that I would have done when I was a kid if money was an option, if money didn't come in the way of it. So it's sort of like that. That's why the motocross theme really bridges across, because that's what I was doing as a kid when I was so influential.
Is that where the mullet styling comes from as well? Is that like an 80s? Was that like an 80s?
Yeah, that was definitely 80s things. But I just changed my hair all the time. If you bothered to look through old pictures from me, like I've gone from shaved my head and to long curly hair, because my hair is curly naturally when it gets long, to like I had the mullet last year and the year before. It's just I just change it up for the sake of change. Even a mustache, does that not give you the idea of the sorts of things that I'll do?
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of the Patreon questions from Phil, wasn't it? Where's the mullet gone? So there you go.
It's just a natural change. I mean, I'll do something for a while and then kind of get sick of it. Like someone says, you shouldn't wear your hair long, I'll then grow it long because they said don't do it long. And if people say, no one has short hair, I'll cut it short. I'll just do the opposite of what people say you shouldn't do. And people say, you need to get rid of that ridiculous haircut. I'll keep it longer.
Does Amy have a say in that?
I was about to say, thank you bringing that up. Do you miss the mullet, Amy?
Mullet was fine. She's the moustache.
The moustache.
Yeah. Didn't like it.
This is definitely like blind, like Cilla Black's blind date.
She doesn't dictate like what I should do, but she definitely drops hints of like, I think it was much better when this was the case.
Class, man. Got any more questions?
Yeah,
You've got to go. No, you go for it, Chrissy. You go for it, son.
Phil's question was asking about the mullet. Luke, what are your thoughts, opinions on Suzuki leaving MotoGP and not having a team in either MotoGP or World Superbikes from next year? Obviously, that's been massive in the press like this over the last 2 weeks. It's an odd one, isn't it? After winning the World Championship, and you kind of racing must have like quite a big influence on the technology that comes down into the road bikes. They've pulled out of World Superbikes quite a long time ago, so it was just MotoGP. Then coming out of MotoGP and not having, I mean, I know they do the World Endurance and they do well there, but in terms of MotoGP and World Superbikes, surely that's going to be a big miss for them.
I think it's a huge shame. Obviously, it's on the back of so many elements, how many bikes they sell and all that sort of thing. If people really want to make a difference, go out and buy a bike. That's what's going to make the biggest difference.
Definitely.
To any brand. That's how you can make a difference as a person is buy a bike and support the brand. But I think with it becoming harder and harder with the emissions laws that are being introduced to motorcycles, the licensing process, everything going electric, I'm sure, I can only speculate, but I imagine it's the company looking at the future and saying that, is this our future? And someone in their company's going, no, it isn't. We need to go some other direction.
Get ahead of the game.
Either it's financially motivated now, or it's going to be in the future. So I mean, I think it's a tragedy to see that a brand's pulling out such as them.
Yeah,
but it's got to be there's a logic to it. It's not just someone's decided, bugger it, we don't want to ride motorbikes anymore.
Yeah. You got on a boat tomorrow. You found the Holy Grail. You live forever. Electric racing's all in. Would you still race?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like it. I wouldn't like it as much. I'd probably put a baseball card in the spokes to try and make a noise. But
you get black flag for noise when you say.
Yeah, but I think if it come down to it, I'd still want to ride bikes. It would still have two wheels. It would still be fun. It'd still be dangerous. It just wouldn't. It wouldn't have the buzz that the engines have, and wouldn't have the atmosphere. But it'd still be good.
Racing's always racing, isn't it? Yeah, you're right.
I've got a few sort of quick fire that I've just on the plane today. I was just thought
check out Rockstar
questions. That I'd come up with. One of them was the embarrassing one, so I can get rid of that. I got asked this. Them Eurosport things we did at the media day at Silverstone. I got asked it. You'll have got asked the same question, and it kind of stumped us, and I thought it was a good question. But what one thing do you pride yourself on?
I can't remember the answer. I remember the question, but I pride myself on you only get out of stuff what you put into it. So if you don't really want to try hard and don't really want to put a lot of effort in, you're not going to get much in return. So every time I'm looking to get more, if I'm not getting out of things, like at the moment racing, if I'm not getting the results and the enjoyment or whatever I want to get out of it, it means I have to put more in. So at the moment I'm in a process of putting more in. But that's what I pride myself on.
That's cool. Just a quick note as well, since this is the first podcast since the do you know there was a documentary made about us a few years ago?
Well, Josh, there's a film about me. Have you participated?
Did you know
in this
that?
film?
Did you know in 2020, basically, a guy called Dave made a documentary. It was actually through the podcast. So Dave's one of the patrons.
Okay.
And basically said like, "Oh, can I come to this round and basically just do like a 5-minute video for YouTube or whatever?" And once he came and like got on well with everyone and stuff, he then came back to the next round and it turned into like a full film. And it's like an hour long, and for it's been ready for like a year or something, over a year, but we've just had it sort of accepted or whatever, and it's on Amazon Prime. So
okay, I haven't watched it. I didn't know about it.
I'll send you a link after this. You will really enjoy it, and if anyone does want to watch it, go on Amazon Prime and go Chasing the Championship.
I don't mean to be a grass, but Amy's watched it. What was your review of it?
But I do know about it.
You do know about? Oh, damn it! I thought I was going to get a one-hit wonder there.
Yeah, but if you check, you will. I'll send you a link afterwards. And what made us think about that is because my mum. I was quite surprised that like my mum and dad like never are on camera or whatever. So it was like sort of weird for us to see that. But we've got like a little bit of a family motto, which is TAF, take action, things happen. And my mum, it's like quite a poignant bit in the film where my mum and dad are speaking about stuff, and my mum says that, which is like, quite cool. It's similar to what you've just been saying,
similar
basically.
concept is
Like family values. What's your prized possession that you'll always have until your final days on Earth?
Be careful.
Yeah, Amy. You can't say Amy.
Be careful.
I've got lots of
Be careful. Just
yeah. No. I've got lots of important things, but
Josh, do me a favour, mate. Just say the words Amy first, and then carry on from there.
Amy first,
Thank
of
you.
course. But outside of the obvious, like material items, I spent. I was nicknamed Van Boy for a long time. This could be a long story. I'll try and keep it short. But when I first got a license, the first thing I wanted was a van, because you got to put your bike in the van and so on. So I always had a van to drive around. And then most motocrossers had vans too, and bike races. So a lot of the guys I hung around with and a lot of guys I didn't hang around with all had vans. So people in the local community just seen these bike rider guys with vans, and they thought we were all buddies. Like even guys we had like beef with, and didn't hang out with. They just assumed that we're all van boys. You know what I mean? We're all one gang, clan, kind of hung together, and it definitely wasn't that. But that's what we kind of got nicknamed. And then there was kind of like non-bike people that kind of took a real disliking to the bike rider guys. So then there was often fights, like of a Friday or Saturday night when you're out in the town. You had to be careful, because if you were in the wrong place, you'd end up in a fight with people, like literally fist fights and stuff with people. They just try and turn on you because they didn't like that you had bikes and vans and you were so I was like, it's typical to the hairstyle thing when people make a point of calling you a certain thing. So I went out and got number plates, VANBOY. I ran around with literally Van Boy number plates. But
class.
And the van that I drove around, it wasn't standard. I ended up first of all, I changed the engine. So standard, they come with like a 2.4 single overhead cam, 2 valve per cylinder, basic low performance petrol engine. So then I swapped it out for what came in the Toyota Hilux, which was a 2.7 twin cam engine, 4 valves per cylinder. And then that wasn't enough. So then I put a turbo on, and then with the turbo, I had to put a aftermarket ignition. So I wired in, there was a company called Haltech, so I wired in an aftermarket ignition and then started tuning the mapping. And in a van. Then I blew the turbo up because the oil line was routed incorrectly, and I overheated the oil line and it didn't feed the turbo correctly, and then it blew up. So then I bought a bigger turbo, and then I made a bigger inlet manifold, and then I blew up the gearbox, and I bought another gearbox, and then blew the diff and improved the diff, and then it was just like going down the line. And then when I got to the end of the line, I went back to the start and improved things. So I must have spent, I don't know,
a lot of money.
Yeah, I think probably 100,000 Aussie on over like 10 years or more. So like 50 grand I probably would have spent on this van doing repairs or modifications. And it's not on the road now, it's just parked at my house.
Are you in England?
No, it's in Australia. So all this was in Australia. All this was from like 2002 to probably 2000 and just before I met Amy. So around, well, I was still going just as we kind of got together. So probably 10 years, 2002 to 2012.
Yeah.
So, and then after that, I was like, I'm done with the modern cars and modifying cars and being stranded on the side of the road when things break. And there's even stories about her coming to rescue me when I'd blown up an engine and put a rod out through the block and oil all over the road, and I nearly crashed on my own oil. And then she came to tow us home, so she came with a rope and started towing me. And then I saw the flashing lights behind. I thought, I rang her up on the phone and said, look, just pull over, the police behind us. I thought, that's it, I'm done, from contaminating the road with oil and flat towing, which is illegal, and all this stuff. And pulled over, and it was just an ambulance that went flying past. And then so we got going again. So but yeah, this van, it's like my apprenticeship. When I bought the van, I didn't know really, like, I knew plenty about mechanical stuff, but I didn't know anything about fuel injection or turbos or inlet manifold or manifold pressure. And
That's kind of like the product of your learning journey.
Yeah, so as every time something broke, I had to self-educate myself, like to get better and repair things and then make it better and stop it from breaking again the next time. So it's kind of like a thing I would struggle to get rid of. There's no...
For sentimental.
It's sentimental, and it's even just cool. Like I could put a battery in it now and start it up and it would drive, it's still going, and it's fun,
class.
you know what I mean? Like if you put your foot down, it spins the tires. It's a rear-wheel drive, so it's...
Is there a photo in this on your social media anywhere? There's got to be.
Oh, I could find a photo. Yeah, I did crash it. It started out white, and then I kept blowing up manual gearboxes, so it's easier to make a strong automatic transmission. So the first night I drove it with the automatic transmission in, I got on the gas and come out of this intersection spinning the tires, and it went sideways, and I was controlling it with the throttle and the steering, obviously, but then unexpectedly it hooked another gear, and it just spun me around. I hit the central renovation and rolled it, and I had to get, there's other, like, people would clap. It was night, and there was like people were clapping and laughing and all sorts of things, and I got these guys on the other side of the road to come over and help me lift it and push it back onto its wheels and drive it home. I'm not promoting any of this sort of thing.
Reckless behaviour.
Honestly, it's reckless behaviour. It is, and I'm glad I grow out of it, because it's not something I'm proud of. But it did happen, and so yeah, there's so much history with that vehicle. It was white, so then I spray painted it black. So it's but there will be a picture somewhere. I could put a picture up on the social somewhere.
So you're quite new to TikTok. That'll be a mid TikTok video. You just broadside around about somewhere, just giving a big read.
Like I said, I've grown out of that. I don't do that anymore. If we got a private area to do that sort of activity, then
there'll be people chucking this at you now. You know that, don't you?
I take it Amy does your social media and stuff and all the things. Very, very. Obviously, I see all the stuff on Instagram and everything. Proper good job with that.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's like a bigger and bigger part of like today's world, isn't it? With the whole one of the cameras has just went off.
No, it's Lundy, I think.
Oh, is that all right?
Thank God, because that's why I ran over there before. Is that still rolling?
I read a real good. It was like a Twitter thread the other day talking about Formula One. So in 2016, Formula One was bought by a company for 4.4 billion. And it had, from the previous 10 years, it had basically dropped in viewers and in value. So it went from like 500 million down, and it looked like it was on a real negative trajectory. And this company took it over in 2016, and it's the F1 right now is the fastest grown global sport. And
Wow.
it went through a few reasons. One of the main reasons why it's absolutely transformed, and the share prices have like quadrupled.
Yeah.
They've made
From social media
hundreds.
roles.
They've made billions already just off since 2016. There was a few massive factors. One of the factors was allowing the drivers to giving them like race footage and stuff to share on social media, and basically pushing all the drivers to a little bit like we kind of get pushed a little bit from BSB to like basically use like TikTok and all of the different things.
Yes.
That's been one of the things to like build each person. Second thing was Drive to Survive, which would
do you watch that?
That's massively revolutionised. So getting to know the drivers kind of behind the scenes and a little bit more like just away from the racing and all the behind the scenes
It removes the polish of corporate. But that's the best thing about it. It shows the nitty gritty of it. I can't recommend it enough. I'm not an F1.
That has been huge, and MotoGP have tried to copy it as well with Unlimited. I don't know if you've watched that.
Is it any good? Have you watched it?
I've watched the first few episodes.
Yeah, I've watched a couple of episodes, but I just felt like it was a bit of a documentary of the championship rather than it's not the nitty like you're saying, the behind the scenes stuff that I think people want to see. It's more of like how the series has been running.
Drive to Survive is proper. They just Netflix. It was Netflix that took it over. Yeah, Netflix. And you know what Netflix are like. They just don't even. They just ask questions. It's like, and it's the blunt delivery of it that just gets a reaction from the drivers, the managers, and quite frankly, it takes totally the polish off the corporate image, and I think it's brilliant.
Another thing, so when Bernie used to run Formula One, it was his sort of thinking behind it was he's not really bothered about younger people because younger people don't have much spare cash. So he was targeting basically the older sort of 40 onwards and hitting that sort of market hard and sort of ignoring the youth, where the average age of people into Formula One's coming down and down and down. And one of the biggest factors is getting it into massively pushing it in America. And by having like the Miami F1, getting all the celebrities involved, and do you know the NFL? That's by far the highest earning sport in the world, and it obviously, so anything that's big in America is massive profits involved. So they're pushing Formula One like massively in America right now. But yeah, in terms of like global sport, F1's like doing amazing.
So how can we relate this to how we can build BSB or bike racing?
Well, do you know, with bike racing, especially like say the Northwestern, like the TT. If you take say the TT as a standalone event, the content is second. Like you could put that against anything in the world.
Yeah.
In terms of excitement,
there's a quality of materials there.
The materials there, 100%. And I think what they're doing with the TT this year, with all of the extra stuff, the start like that podcast that they do, they're doing just so much media stuff and the live TV and stuff. I think they're like well on the right tracks. But I don't know. Obviously, if I knew,
what's your opinion on it?
The worst bit is for all this is that's the bit that I struggle with the most. I think. I like racing my bike, and then as soon as it's over, if I could just sort of like switch, go home and not do any of the corporate stuff. But it's sort of like it's a catch-22. You've got to let your guard down and let yourself be vulnerable for the people to see who you are. But I'm kind of closed off. I feel insecure about who I am as a person, and I don't want to.
Yeah, but that makes you
display that to people.
But that's good though, because the thing is, you would lose your character, wouldn't you? If you're like, it's like robots in this game, innit? You know what I mean? Everyone's trying to be like each other, but if you just suddenly became a corporate whore, you wouldn't be the same, would you?
I think what we're getting to is that we need to have ourselves more accessible to people, but then you have to keep it. But then you have to be available to do all these extra duties that we already don't want to do, because it's like homework for school kids. I mean, you don't want to do it, but it's what you need to do to improve.
Oh, difficult times. You ever considered smoking? You would suit smoking. If you just got on the podium, just lit a cigarette on the podium, I think it'd be great. I think you'd really suit it. I'm trying to break the characters up in the sport here, you know what I mean? Would you...
maybe when you had a big tash, I think you'd a big cigar, maybe. But
like a pipe or something, you know what I mean? He's thinking about it. He hasn't said no.
Next quickfire question. Right now in BSB, if you put every single rider on exactly the same bike, so who do you think right now, just on pure riding ability, top 3 riders in the championship?
I don't know. I couldn't even say. I couldn't say. Not even with any certainty. Not a chance. Especially asking them to be all on the same bike, because, like,
good, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's just certain riders. I know it sounds like making excuses, but it's just a really difficult question to answer.
Do you know, like, say if you did it, say World Superbikes, people would be pretty confident to say sort of. You would probably say Jonathan Toprak. Or if you said MotoGP, most people would straight away say Marquez. Do you not feel like there's any standouts in BSB?
Yeah, but the standouts last year are different to the standouts this year and the year before. You know what I mean? It's too hard. I think each rider has, and again, like I'm saying, if you put them all on the same bike, so certain riders that you didn't think were doing particularly well would then all of a sudden start to perform because that suits them, and then other riders that need the ability to adjust the bike to their personal needs would then suffer because they're all on the same bike. So it's always going to be this sort of like guesswork. I mean, I like the question, but I just
it's difficult.
It's difficult to answer. And I mean, and then just trying to pick 3, like there's easily more than 15 riders on the grid that are capable of winning a race. So. Yeah, it's just really. I'm sorry, it's just really hard to answer. I think that's so difficult.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think this will be me my last one of quick fire. If you want to think of one as well, or a couple,
I peaked at cigarette. To be fair, I was just hoping he was going to say yes. I think it'd be class.
I did that already.
What's been the single best moment, happiest moment in your life?
Be careful. Why are you trying to get him in trouble here? These are heavy questions.
It's nice.
Amy, can you leave for 5 minutes?
Amy's been a long period of my life. So,
God.
So
That's like one big warm glow, but
yes,
single
a single moment isn't that difficult. It's not a new story. Unfortunately, it's not material that people wouldn't have heard of before. And in 2004, I asked my team in Australia to enter me in a wild card for World Supersport, and they agreed. And I got this idea from the year before. It was 2000. Anyway, my teammate of a year before got that luxury. But he went about it wrong. So, not he didn't go about it wrong, but it didn't go well for him. They got a bike out of Japan because the Australian Supersport rules are far different to the World Championship rules. So, the bike we race in Australia wouldn't be competitive. So, they got a bike out of Japan, and it was kind of like the baseline kit bike that you could buy at the time. So it had, the improved engine, the big radiator, and the ignition, and all the fancy stuff, nice suspension. It was all done, but basically he was hopping on an unfamiliar bike for a one-off round in a championship he doesn't ride in, and he didn't perform. So I used his situation to calculate how I wanted to do it the following year. So I asked if I could do it the following year, and I said, but I want to ride my own bike. I don't want to ride this sort of half familiar bike that's sort of cobbled together to be competitive in the World Championship. I said I want my own bike and just up-spec it to what the World Championship has. So they leased an engine out of Japan. We ran our ECU, we ran our suspension, wheels, brakes, everything I raced on every weekend, handlebars, seat, everything was exactly as I raced. All we had was an engine and sort of radiator or something. I don't know the technical side of it, but we had just enough to up-spec the bike to be competitive in the World Championship. And that was my first World Championship race, and I won the race. So it was 2004, Phillip Island, World Supersport round. And I won, and it's the first time a wild card at their first attempt at the World Championship has won, and it still hasn't been repeated. So at that moment in time, that was sort of like
that's class.
Was there a particular moment, like say when you took the lead of the race, or when you got into Parc Fermé when it like hit you, or crossing the line to take the win? Was there a particular moment which is like just? What was it, just that race?
How confident were you? Once they put the engine in the chassis before turning up at the event at a wild card, were you thinking top 10 was achievable, or was it what were you think? What would you been happy to come away with?
I think being young and full of
stuff,
full of self. What's the word where you?
Just self-belief.
Yeah, self-belief, I suppose. Yeah, you're so full of self-belief when you're young, and I'd come from a load of winning. You know what I mean? Everything I did seemed to turn to gold, and so I was just in a good period of growth, and so I had really high expectations, but I never spoke. I already knew not to speak too much. You know what I mean? Every time I got interviewed, they're like, "Oh, how do you think you'll go?" We'll see how we go. I hope I do all right. You know what I mean? I never talked it up. I always talked it down and then hoped for more.
Yeah.
And it sort of started to take a bit of a dip early on. Like I qualified, I think the first session I was like fourth or something like that because of the track, from being familiar with the track, familiar with the bike, and everything was good. But then the next session, I think I dropped back to like 12th, and I was like, oh, this isn't looking good. And what had happened was, I was running on Michelin tyres at the time, and then the World Championship had Pirelli. So when I first started riding the bike, it was like weaving lows. It just felt really soft and moving around heaps. And I said, it feels way too soft. So we went a bit stiffer for the second session, and it got worse. And I come back and say to the guys, no, it's far worse. I don't understand. It's, and they're like, well, it's the Pirellis. They must be softer than in their structure than what we're used to running on. So they went the other way, which just makes sense. And then immediately the bike started getting better. So then I ended up qualifying fourth. So then that reinstated some confidence again. I went from like really confident to, I'm losing direction here. And then bam, we qualified on the front row. So I was already confident before the race because I qualified on the front row. And then early in the race, I kind of was starting to get sort of not beat up, like the typical racing kind of fight. I ended up back to about, I don't know, maybe sixth or seventh at one point. And at that moment, I was like, not thinking, this is me, I'm going to go backwards, but I was thinking, the leaders look a long way away. It's going to be hard to bridge that back. But then as the race went on, I kind of just stayed the same, typical as I do like in BSB when things are going well. Like towards the end of the race, it's not that I gain speed at the end, I just don't seem to drop off like others do.
Yes.
Good at conserving the tyre and things like that. So even then, I was only, I think, 20 years old. So I was just sort of like riding my own pace, and my pace seemed to then be able to creep back up through the grid. And then all of a sudden, I don't know, I can't remember, it's a long time ago, but I think I had maybe 8 or 10 laps to go, and I was in second. And I was like, at that point, I was like,
starting to believe.
Here we go.
I was like, I'm going to win this. You know what I mean?
Was it a win or bin it attitude?
No. I didn't. I never felt like it was a win it or bin it situation. But I just sort of I just felt like the progress at that point was strong enough. Like I can win this. And then I just sort of sat there and I kept looking. And my bike was, even though it was competitive, it was still a bit slower. So it was Kevin Curtin, another Australian. He was leading. He was on the Yamaha Germany bike, and it was really fast. So I'd come along in the slipstream. I'd pull out the slipstream in the draft just to see if there was a chance to overtake. And I'd just have to go back into the draft again because it wouldn't have enough speed. So I kept looking at where I could, just to keep him on his toes. You know what I mean? But also having a look and exploring where I could maybe make a pass. And then I knew it wasn't going to be anywhere, but because of the speed of his bike, I sort of wanted to take him by surprise. And I don't know, I can't remember, it was a long time ago, but I ended up passing him on the last lap into MG, and then sort of just held it tight all the way around that last Phillip Island's last 11 and 12 corners and got onto the straight. And I was praying that he wasn't going to come past, because when someone's got a faster bike and it's like as if that line doesn't come close enough quick enough. I was like looking at it going, come on, with that expectation to just at any moment see a bike come blasting past you from the slipstream, but he didn't, and I won the race. But it was particularly special, not because of that moment of winning, but because of what I thought the future would have installed.
You ticked a massive box.
When you're a kid and you've kind of set this trajectory of where you want to go in life, and there's all these people trying to tell you won't, or all these things that are like hurdles and things in the way, whether it's finances or injuries or there's so many things that happen that sort of stop you from getting there. And then when you make a landmark achievement like that, it's almost like you think that's it, I've made it. I'm on the way to big things. So it was all. I think that was the bigger sensation, is that it's I'm going in the right direction, and I thought that was the last sort of push I would need to go to ultimate success. Mm-hmm. But of course, we're here today, all these years on, and it's not exactly as I had planned. It's very good. I'm pleased with what I've done, but like I said in the original podcast, but
it's nice to see you with a smile on your face. The second you started saying that story, the smile on your face is absolutely class.
Yeah, and that's why it's just the best
thing. What it's about.
Yeah, when you think of all of the people, like say when you very first started racing it, all of them, like people all around the world, like of the if you take that whole pool of people, you've like, there might be like one or two people that have done slightly better or achieved more, but like in the grand scheme of things, like you'd be like in the top 0.1% of achievers. So do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's always easy to think like, oh, I wish I could have done more.
And you
like,
always have that as well. You know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't matter how much you suck in years to come. It's that one moment is on that day I was this good. You'll always have that. I feel like that thing you just hang on to, and it's good.
Do you have a standout moment in your life that's just like the single happiest?
Having a shit in a clear pipe with a train going by was pretty up there, to be fair. You know what I mean?
Do you have a standout moment or not?
No, I feel like they get to come. Yet to come, son. Yet to come.
Well, that in itself is good. You know what I mean? Like the fact that I have a moment that stands out. You know what I mean? There must be a lot of people that think that if you ask that question to them and they're like, oh, have to think about it. You know what I mean? I don't have to think about it. I know that that's it. And there's more. There's more other moments, maybe not as significant, but but they're up there. So
it's funny,
bike racing has got such a lot to play in.
My story is like so similar to yours, but just at a completely different level. So it was like a 125 race at Bempsey. Like literally nobody there, no world championship or anything, but exactly the same as what you've just said, and like the sort of aspirations and that more. Even
that moment of trajectory where it's sending you to.
Even to the point of, obviously Snetterton's got like a really long, from that last corner all the way to the start finish line, and the other person had a faster ride. He's called Alex Vella, and I was tucked in and I was just waiting, and I could feel, when someone pulls out the slipstream, as we got to the line, I just had it by like half a wheel or something, but exactly the same thing. And like, even obviously I haven't went on to achieve as much as what I would have liked to have achieved. But even like the sort of Superstock Championship and the Triumphs and Super Teen Champion and a few other things, that first race is by far my single most happiest. And the fact nobody was there, to anybody else, it's like completely insignificant. But to me, that, and I can even,
That's good, man. Mm-hmm. That's good.
Other than promoting your lovely merchandise, which, like I say, I am impressed with. Have you got anything else to? I know you're on TikTok now, aren't you? What's it at?
I'll have to turn to my wife.
Tag on below.
Yeah, so on TikTok and Instagram, Facebook, all the others.
It's always Josh Brookes 25, something like that. Brookes 25, Josh Brookes 25. You should be able to.
Can I just quickly ask? Because obviously the number thing, ran number one, and halfway through the season turned to 25. Was that your decision, or did you feel like that was pushed?
100% pushed on me. That was I think that was Paul punishing me for not doing well.
Right.
I think. I don't have any, and I've said this before, I don't have any superstitions, you know what I mean? So I'm not bothered. It's just a piece of vinyl, sticky stuff on the front of the bike. What difference could that make to results? So I've got no issues with the number at all. But I think Paul maybe has some more superstitions, you know what I mean? And things that bother him. And I think for him, it was like he wanted to tick that box and get that out for his peace of mind. He hasn't actually said that to me, but I know him enough to, I think that's the point of that, was like, let's just get that out the way. I know it's some people might not agree, but it's just, let's just get out the way, and then we don't have to think about it.
Yeah. Have you gone looking through the programme at the Northwest here to see who nicked your number? Who's nicked your number?
I don't know him personally, but there was a guy already in the program under 25.
I would love to know who that is.
I don't think nicked.
Here we go.
He didn't nick it.
He nicked it. He nicked it. for the goodness.
Yes.
Sorry.
He did message you, didn't he?
Did he?
Yeah.
You went. You was a very last minute entry one.
He felt conscious of that he'd nicked it, but he didn't nick it. He just put his name forward for the number, and I wasn't in the list at that time. So
I'd be surfing that wave all the way. I'm like, I've just nicked it.
Did 72 have any significance, or was that just what?
It's like a Japanese wildcard number. It's if you look in Grand Prix, like if you look at the wildcards, they were always like 70 numbers, like 71, 72, like Kageyama's 71. He kept that number because when he wildcarded, he was 71. I don't know for sure, but that's the idea.
Cool.
And like cool. I don't know if it's relative either to Giro Kato was 74, but anyway, there's definitely 70 numbers were reserved for wildcards.
That's class.
And 72 is just a cool Japanese wildcard number.
Like
It's just what it represents to me. And in the list of numbers that I had to pick from, because all the traditional, top numbers were already picked and allocated to certain riders. So when they said, look, 25 isn't available, can you pick another number? I said, well, what are the options? And they're like 45. And I was like, well, it's Scott Redding, so I don't want to, run that. And then it was like some other numbers, and I was like, sort of. And then it was like 72. I was like, I'll have that.
Yeah, straight off the bat.
Yeah, it's just like, that'll do. I like 72. And Paul Bird said it was his racing number as well. I didn't know that at the time, but
right.
he raced with 72. So there's quite a few links to unintentional links to other things.
Yeah, good.
Fantastic. Well, I've actually got a few shout outs, but have you got any shout outs you want to slap out there before we tidy up the bow?
No, shout out to everybody.
Shout out to everybody. Also, no, I'll tell you what, this is from Tamra Gia, and I totally forgot. So, LCR, who are based in Portadown, they helped me out to no end because I was rebuilding wet wheels, and he drove me around the whole of Portadown, going every shop to find me nuts and bolts, and that's why the Northern Irish, the Irish in general, are just outstanding people.
Yes.
They'll just drop what they're doing to help out another human being. It is phenomenal. So,
especially if it's a human being racing a bike.
Yeah, that especially, without a doubt. And I've got a shout out to a marshal called Andy Chapman. I was being a dickhead. Like, I can't wheelie a bike to save my life, but on Fran's bike, I started to get the hang of it at Cookstown, and I was just standing up on the pegs, and I got dead cocky. I came down, and my lap timer flew off the bike. 300. That cool down lap cost me 300 quid. This lap time was obliterating and started bouncing down the track, and actually almost knocked off Sam Johnson. And Andy Chapman came running through the paddock with this broken lap time, but it was actually not too broken. And so I've got a massive shout out to him for returning that. And also, if anyone's interested in buying an original Richard Britton bike, my sponsor Roy Armstrong is selling one. He's actually got one of the original Richard Britton bikes.
Shouldn't have too much trouble selling one of them.
No, you shouldn't have, should you? No.
Well, it depends on the price tag.
There is that. But no,
I'd like to buy it personally, but I don't have that sort of cash.
Well, no. I'd say, hey, Roy's a reasonable man. I'll introduce you.
It doesn't matter how reasonable it is. I know that bike's not cheap, and I don't have that sort of money. And if I did, I'll spend it on our do-upper house.
Yeah, there is that. There you go. But no, it's a proper original Richard Britton bike.
That'd be something special.
Roughly what sort of money is that?
I have no idea.
Right.
I have no idea. But Roy is he's a proper, he's a Fermanagh man, you know what I mean? And they're more laid back than deflated Lilos, them lot. So no, please get in touch if anyone is genuinely interested.
Let's have a guess. It's got to be worth $100,000, isn't it?
No, nowhere near that, I would imagine.
Why?
I have no idea.
It's rare.
It is very rare. Roy will be here. He'll be listening to this episode going, I should put a price tag on it. I have no idea.
What do you think then? What do you think? 50 grand?
I have no idea. Not a clue. I've never gone into that market.
How many are there? In all the world, what are there? 8? 10 maybe?
Yeah. Tell you what.
It's got to be worth some money.
Interesting. Well, if anyone's interested in slapping a price, please let us know and I'll transfer that money through me.
Yeah. Purely because of how rare and personal built it is. It's a pretty special thing. You've watched the film, the documentary thing on the Britain, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, shout out to people to watch that.
Richard Britton's the Fermanagh racer.
Hey?
Fermanagh road racer.
Oh, have I missed something?
I think you mixed this up a little bit here. So no.
The Britain motorcycle, made in New Zealand.
No. Richard. That's why I'm thinking 100 grand here. I'm thinking sold. Anyway, if we could edit this beautifully, that would be outstanding. No, Richard Britton was a very known Irish road racer over here. So anyway, if anyone's got 100 grand, would like to buy Richard Britton's bike.
So you're just trying to sell some guy's random bike on the podcast?
No, he's not random. He's a legend. He's Lee Johnson's biggest his racing hero. There, I'm thinking. But if anyone's got 100 grand spare, wants to check it out.
I thought you were talking about the
Britton bike. No, Richard Britton's bike. So there you go. It's fantastic. That is the best thing ever.
Well, before we wrap things up...
Well, that was pretty embarrassing.
No, not at all. No.
Before we wrap things up, as some of you might know, it's my little sister that edits these podcasts and
she'll have a nightmare with this.
I was putting them together, and this week coming is the start of our GCSEs, so I wish little Grace all the very best, as well as editing this with all of our revision, and I hope that goes well. And also... it which got announced this week that on like social media that we've mentioned it a few times, but that we've partnered up with Bennett Insurance, and myself and Dom are going to be on a track day at Cadwell Park on I should know the date. I think it's the 27th of July. But
Put it on the bottom.
It's on the press release, and also on social media where it's announced. Like there's a sketch of me and Dom where I look about 20 stone. I'll show you a picture after. I'm very flattered in my one, so I'm over the moon with it, to be fair. There's also, if you stick your email address in there, you get a chance to win. It's like a full BSB day out, so you get the laps in the thingy car or the safety car, grid walks, hospitality, the full whack. So literally you just put your name and email address in there, and it's pretty cool, like garage tour, the full whack. In fact, I'll quickly just show you that picture, because it is you think that was embarrassing. The guy that does it is very talented, and he does these like sketches in a certain way, but he's definitely added a few stone onto me.
You look like a wrestler.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I look pretty fat, don't I?
It's class.
But
it is class.
On that note, once again, thanks very much I know you're a busy man, so I really appreciate your time, and very much best of luck for the rest of the Superbike season and the Northwest 200. And we'll obviously massive thank you to our sponsors, Colchester Kawasaki, and all of our patrons.
And Death of Glory for the shop today. Definitely, so there we go.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I'm not sure if actually in camera shot, but we've tried to make as much of a sort of studio as possible in here.
Winging it.
And have you got anything to finish with?
No, just thank you for having us on again. Hopefully some of the content was interesting to the listeners. And look forward to maybe in a couple of years doing another one.
Excellent.
Fantastic. Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much.
Have a nice evening to you both, and catch up sometime soon.
See you in a bit.
Cheers.
Chasing the Racing, powered by Colchester Kawasaki. Part of the Global Moto Group, we supply new Aprilia, Moto Guzzi, Vespa, Royal Enfield, Kawasaki, Sim, Mutt and Benelli motorcycles.